Boxing truth here. Let's talk about Billy Joe's latest signing with Matchroom and how it impacts certain divisions and how really, even though he's in a better position in terms of getting some fights, Billy Joe Saunders signing with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom doesn't guarantee the big money fights or the really career-defining fights that Billy Joe has been seeking and has been yearning for quite some time. Well, for one, he signed with Matchroom, so there's only 3 fights that Eddie Hearn can absolutely guarantee to Billy Joe, which still made it a more attractive offer than what Frank Warren could have offered to Billy Joe. Warren had absolutely nothing for Saunders, was even desperate to go across the street and try to entice Eddie Hearn for a unification bout with Callum Smith. The money wasn't there. They didn't want to commit to a 50-50 deal. So that was the last desperate attempt for Frank Warren to keep Billy Joe. So going forward, there were reports that Billy Joe had signed a $30 million deal with a promoter. It was pretty much figuring out which promoter offered him that type of money. I felt PBC was in the hunt, perhaps to make a legitimate offer to Saunders because they have a lot of action at 68. I really felt PBC was a better destination for Saunders because there were more fights that could have been offered to him, more guaranteed fights, even a Chris Eubank Jr. rematch, which he has tried to make in the past, a rematch that has been elusive thus far in his career because it's a fight that he feels that he'll win again, even though both guys have drastically improved since they first fought. They're not British level fighters anymore. But the signing makes sense in terms of the fights that are guaranteed to Billy Joe. Like I said, there are 3 fights Billy Joe can get with this deal. The Callum Smith fight will be guaranteed. It's just not going to happen immediately, not in the immediate future. A Danny Jacobs fight is something that Eddie Hearn could also guarantee Billy Joe Saunders. That's a good fight for Saunders at 68 if he's looking for action at 68. There's also the Demetrius Andrade fight. That's the fight that makes the most sense for Billy Joe. Why not be a WBO king in 2 divisions, 160 and 168? I don't think there's rules in WBO that says you can't be champions in 2 divisions. So that would make a lot of sense for Billy Joe to fight Andrade, run that back, try to get that fight over the line, try to regain his old strap that he was forced to relinquish because of a positive drug test. But still, Eddie Hearn can't guarantee Billy Joe that he will get the Triple G or Canelo fights. Yeah, it helps that they're on the same network. They're all fighting on DAZN, but there's still an agreement that has to be in place. There still has to be signatures on the dotted line. And Golovkin and Canelo have other options. Billy Joe, he does have hardware. He does bring a belt to the table, but at 168 pounds. Canelo has other options. Billy Joe is really not the number one on the hit list. Golovkin has shown interest in the past, but he hasn't really shown interest lately in Billy Joe. So those fights are still going to be hard to make, even though they're on the same network, on the same street. Which is why I felt PBC was a better option for Saunders, since he's campaigning at 68 right now. There's more options at 68 for Saunders and the PBC side. I mean, he could have fought Caleb Plant. He could have fought David Benavidez. He could have fought Anthony Durrell. There's light heavyweights he could have fought as well. There's also a Jamal Charlo fight. There was a Eubank Jr. rematch since Jr. is still committed to PBC for at least a couple more fights. So it wasn't the worst move. I don't feel it was the best move because there are fights that Eddie Hearn can guarantee Billy Joe, more significant fights compared to what Frank Warren could have offered him. Warren had absolutely nothing. Was able to get him a vacant title shot against an unknown guy. Didn't look good in the fight. Bored everybody to death in his last performance. But Billy Joe has a lot of tools, has a lot of capabilities. He has a tricky style that's very difficult for many fighters to deal with, which is why there's some fighters that are reluctant to get in the ring with him, especially in the beginning since he didn't really bring much to the table. But now he's got a strap at 68, awaiting the big fights. I don't see a big fight happening immediately for Billy Joe now that he's with Matchroom. I see them getting him, some sort of appearance fight, showcase fight, and maybe perhaps a Danny Jacobs fight next down the line. Maybe an Andre fight in between that, and then the end game will be Callum Smith. What will be a huge unification fight at 68 if built right. But Saunders has the ability to beat all of these guys. I mean, there's not really many fighters at 60 or 68 that I would pick confidently that can beat Saunders. I think he would beat Anthony Durrell. I think he would beat Demetrius Andrade. I feel he would beat Golovkin. David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, Callum Smith are fights that I would like to see Billy Joe participate in, because those fights I really can't call. Those are the fights I really can't call. A Eubank Jr. rematch could even be different as well. Eubank has gotten a lot better. His boxing skills are still a work in progress, but he's a much more dangerous fighter now than when Billy Joe first fought him. So Canelo, that's another dangerous fight for Canelo. Billy Joe will be tricky for Canelo, no doubt. Just has that style, southpaw, fluid, feints, footwork, movement, speed. It wouldn't be the ideal style for Canelo to jump in. So Saunders is definitely an elite talent, a world-class talent. It's just he's got to get going. He's been disappointing. He's had disappointing performances when he's in these type of fights that don't get him up. He hasn't had a great performance in quite some time. He lost all the momentum when he beat David Lemieux. So Saunders has been a disappointment. He has the talent, the capabilities to beat anybody in the world at 60 and 68. Unfortunately, he's had a lot of mishaps, a lot of setbacks, inactivity, ballooning up in weight, poor performances, and failed drug tests. So maybe this is it for Saunders. This is finally going to be his his coming out party, where he finally gets a couple of big fights, and we get to see how good Saunders really is, because I feel he's one of the best fighters in the world, top 15 at least, pound for pound. Be nice to see him in that Demetrius Andrade fight to see who really is a true middleweight king for the WBO at 160 pounds. So, not the worst move for Saunders. Going forward, he'll get at least a significant fight or two. I felt PBC would have provided even more fights for him, because there's still no guarantee that Canelo and Triple G will fight Billy Joe Saunders, but being aligned with that network still gives him an outside chance, still gives him a possibility. So maybe Golovkin will take the bait if Golovkin still has plans to pursue a title at 68. If the third fight with Canelo doesn't happen, maybe Canelo, who fights anybody, will take any challenge, will step up to fight him. But still, I could see Saunders getting a significant fight here or two. Will he get the Canelo Triple G fights? That's a whole different story. But looking forward to Saunders' next journey. See where he goes from here. He needs to get active again, needs to get back in there and remind the world that he is truly one of the elite talents at the 60 and 68 pound divisions. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.